Hey, how's it going, everyone? This is Greg from Legacy Productions. Now, I haven't done a big review or unboxing video. Well, today I didn't feel like doing an unboxing portion. I've already opened it, used it for quite some time. So you guys know some of the battle scars on this thing here. So I'm going to talk about here the Optica SteadyVid Pro. Here it is. Here's the SteadyVid Pro. I like this thing a lot because it was cheap. And it actually has a similarity of the Steadicam Merlin. The first thing I'm going to talk about here, and I already pulled it out of the box, this is the foam that it comes in, so it's actually pretty secured. There was several weights already pre-attached, and there were still weights there already. So it turned out pretty nice. The weights were set here, and then there was a screw. And then first I'm going to tell you guys the good things about this thing. Now, the price. Obviously, the price was one of the main pros of this thing. I believe many of you guys actually asked me what would be a good stabilizer besides from the shoulder rig and then to the monopod, and then we're gonna go ahead and go into something a little bit more advanced that involves a bit of balancing techniques and all that, and I can't put that into the video. It would take too long and it would drag on. So the first thing we're gonna talk about here is, well, the amount of adjustment knobs you get with this thing. Now I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in on this camera here, and let's go ahead and bump that up. Now there's several adjustment knobs on this thing. There's 4 here for tightening, and the silver ones are for tightening, and then the black ones, like the ones you see here, these are for adjusting, moving the plate back and forth, side to side. So these are usually meant for making sure that this handle here keeps the camera balanced. And then we also have another knob here, which happens to be, I don't want to make that scraping noise a lot, which happens to be this knob here. This knob here is also for bringing this thing up and down to go ahead and add more weight, lessen the weight, or help the dynamic balance of the camera. Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about is the cheese plate. That's what they reference these things as. And then the weights, which one's already pre-attached here. I'm going to give you guys a con about those weights in a few seconds. So here's the plate. It already has its battle scars for me already, and it attaches onto the Optica kind of in a strange way. I'll show you guys in a bit about that, but here it is. You go ahead and you got this axis here, this X right here, where it's allowed to adjust it by precision for the camera's weight, depending on how heavy your camera is on one side or other, how heavy the battery is, how heavy the lens is, or the screen's flipped out or not. This right here will help you find the center of balance for your camera. And the next thing we talk about here is this screw. This is the screw that goes into your camera onto the cheese plate. Now this thing was actually kind of funky. I don't know if this is the wrong one they sent me or this is the correct one, but it didn't screw into my camera all the way. So I had to get a spacer, which is right there, and actually attach it on to the screw. And I actually had to feed it in like this, put it down, and then we had to set it like that. Now, the reason why I don't like this is because, first, right out of the box, I did not want that to exactly happen. I did not want to go ahead and have to go grab a washer and put it on. I would have expected this thing to be right out of the box and ready to go. But, you know, things always happen when it comes to manufacturing or the camera design itself. I tested it out with other screws on other cameras. There wasn't any issue, but for some reason my 5100 did not like this screw here. Okay, for starting here, for the beginning portion of this video, I want to make sure to remind you guys, when you actually go ahead and get this mounted on and onto the Optica SteadyVid Pro or any stabilizer, Glidecam, Steadicam, make sure you have your camera set. First downfall for many people that can't balance it is to keep their neck strap on. Take that off immediately. You do not need that. None of my cameras actually have theirs on. The only time I actually ever use mine is on handheld doing photos, but even then I actually have my hand around the grip 90% of the time. So the first thing I'm going to say here is take off anything that's excess weight, like a flash, a microphone. Unless you're actually willing to go through and balance the whole system with the microphone, I just take the microphone off and I have separate audio recording. It saves me time, and it's not it's better off seeking it off and post edit than to actually go ahead and balance the microphone and take up more time of production value. So I put the neck strap off to the side. First thing, are you gonna have the screen flipped out or not? Usually, some people do like to have the screen flipped out when they're using this thing. I don't. It takes too much time. Wasn't able to find a balance on this thing with the 5100. Stick a battery in, and then stick an SD card in, because you won't be able to find your balance. Now, obviously, this camera does not work. It has a dead battery syndrome. because the thing's pathetic. But we're gonna go ahead and actually mount this thing on. Now, when it comes to cameras like this, you gotta make sure, is the lens heavy? Are you gonna make sure you have the correct aperture set? You can do all of that on your own. What are your focal points gonna be? You have to get this all set before finally getting this camera all set and ready to go. Okay, here happens to be the actual top portion of the camera itself. Here we got the lock-in portion, and then we got this little in-groove here, which kind of makes no sense. It kind of wears out after a while, and it will make sense, I suppose. And then right here we happen to have the adjustment knobs that are for precision to go ahead and get this thing actually centered correctly. And then we have a leveling bubble right here. And this is the tiny knob that actually holds this thing in place. Kind of not secure, so we're going to replace it. There's another guy on the YouTube channel that had like a 70s style of editing, which made no sense. And that was the best way to go ahead and bounce it from there. So the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do here is actually set this down on the desk. And if you notice, it's semi-balanced on its own, which is a good thing, but it's not what we're looking for. I'm going to go ahead and flip the DSLR over. I'm going to go ahead and mount it onto its plate. Now I'm going to loosely do it first, and then I'm going to go ahead and find some type of penny or peso, because that's what I have currencies in here. Now, if I know this lens is going to be front heavy a lot, so that means I have to push it back a tad bit. But then if I want to go ahead and have side adjustments, I don't have that option back here, sadly. And I'm going to go ahead and just put it off. More to the left means this side's going to be heavier, and then move it off more to the right. That means it's going to be more right heavy. Remember, battery and SD card sides will be heavier. So just going to find the center, which I think right about here would do so. So I'm going to go ahead and grab some type of penny or quarter. Okay, so now we're back, and I changed the camera angle here. So we got a top view and a side view of what we're doing here. So this is the Optica. It's sitting here alone. So move that off to the side for a moment. I'm going to go ahead and secure this thing. Now the first thing we're going to do is, since I chose this position, I'm going to go ahead and tighten it here. Remember, you can also readjust, take it off, readjust, take it off, readjust. It's a fail and learn process for any DSLR. The only actual Steadicam that actually has a cookbook on how to actually get it right would be the Merlin. The Merlin happens to have a whole cookbook where you're actually able to study and get it studying actually balanced. But that's a whole other story, and I'm not going to go into that because I don't have the Merlin, and I'm not planning to get the Merlin. I'm actually going to go for a GlideCam HD 3000 or 2000. Now around this, right off the bat, it's going off to the side. That's what you don't want. I'm going to readjust the second camera here. Okay, here we go. So it's already standing on its own. It's going off to one side. So I'm going to push it off to the side as much as I can. And try to get at least the plate balanced in a good way. Alright, that's pretty good. I like that. Now it's already on here already, and if I let go, it's going to go forward because the lens is front heavy. And the next thing I'm going to go ahead and do is actually just these side knobs here on the camera. These here are the ones that actually go ahead and allow you to move this thing back and forth. It locks the tray in place for readjustment. Be careful not to hit this knob on the side. It actually throws off the camera off balance. It's a dumb feature. Don't know why they place it like that, but that's not my issue. It really is, actually. So we're going to go ahead and start tightening. Well, going right. Still front heavy. Still front heavy here. Alright, that's actually pretty good for first try. Remember, I already had this thing pre-balanced a while back, so you might not get the same result. Your camera might start swaying and swerving. And that'll be a whole other video I'll be doing soon about how to use a bounce a Steadicam, especially one of this difficulty. So if I can lift it up, pretty spot on actually for this thing actually be like this. A few things I'm going to talk to you guys about. This knob right here, this is actually with the camera left and right. But if you notice, my dynamic balance is completely off. And we'll talk about that in another video. So far, just a few tips about you guys out there. Make sure to secure all the screws, including the bottom ones here. Side screws, just about everything. Make sure to get this thing balanced just about right. And then these bottom weights here, the sad part about these, and I'm actually going to talk about them. These bottom weights here, these are all attached together. Have you noticed that there's scrapes and marks on them? That's me thinking you can get them all loose and take them all out. No. These are the ones you have to put on, and then you have to go into dealing with balancing. Kind of weird. The Merlin actually let you bounce, take apart every single weight. But you know, that's just a personal preference, and I actually like how the Merlin did that. Just remember, dynamic bounce, when you have too much swaying like this, that means that this is the dynamic bounce. You have to raise it up a bit and readjust it. Move the lens forward, back, or just readjust the top. Every time you move this up, you have to readjust the top portion. Just keep that thought in mind. But I hope you guys enjoy this video. Just remember, you guys, this thing is what I got on Amazon for like a good $70. Didn't get it on Prime or anything. But it takes a lot of practice. First few times you use this thing, it might not turn out good. It might, you know, sway around, and when you're running, it's gonna do stuff like that. Just remember, it takes a lot of time. If you want to go ahead and have to deal with less arm pain, which I don't really have to because I started working out finally because I'm a weakling. One thing you should go is for an arm, a vest and arm, and there's a slot here you can put the vest arm through, and it, you know, it's able to carry the camera by itself, and it reduces less shock by your arm when you're running, which is this right here. Yeah, you know, the arm. And that right there will actually help you a lot to reduce a lot of vibration to the camera when it comes to moving. But so far, this thing's actually really nice. I like the grip compared to the Merlin. The Merlin's grip is kind of funky. It feels like cheap plastic, and it's kind of garbage. And this here feels good, except this foam piece kind of goes up, and you feel the bottom here. One tip, which a lot of YouTubers have said, is to go ahead and actually tighten the screws here on the gimbal. It kind of gets loose. And then this right here actually moves up and down, even if you've tightened it. It can throw off your drop time, so when you're balancing it, make sure this thing's pushed all the way down. If it's up, make sure to bring it back down. If your camera is too heavy, like way more than my camera, you have these weights here you can add on to it. Make sure to go one by one and just work your way up. Once you get that, once you get the steady bounce, then the hard part to tackle is the dynamic bounce. There's videos out there on how to actually do that, but I'll be doing one to myself once I master this myself. But I actually like this thing so far. It has been giving me trouble having the time. It kind of stresses me out every once in a while how to use this thing. But it did take time and more work to actually get this thing perfected. But I'll be soon releasing a test video on it, and, you know, test footage. And I'll also be releasing on how to actually get dynamic bounce and static bounce of this thing, because I only showed you guys the bare minimal. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is Greg from Legacy Productions. If you guys have any questions about this stabilizer, how much I paid, which is like $70, $80, can't remember exact shipping and all that, and total up. This is a good beginner stabilizer. I prefer going towards more the Glide Cam because it has better dynamic balance, and it's a little bit more easier to set up. I've seen it done quicker than it would take a Merlin and the Optica SteadyVid Pro, and then the SteadyVid, which is a lower model of this camera stabilizer, which isn't really good, honest. And I recommend not buying stuff like that where it's just a curved arm in the weight system, because it's harder to find a dynamic bounce. And this right here lets you find your dynamic bounce really quickly. So please leave any comments below if you have any questions on where to get this at or what I think about it. Just remember, you guys, there'll be 2 more videos following up from this video. So that's all, you guys. I've said this like multiple times, that's all, you guys, blah blah. So that's all, you guys. This is Greg from Legacy Productions, and see you later.